From Montana's news leader, this is the MTN Noon News.
Good afternoon and thanks for joining us on the Noon News. I'm Diane Parker. Miller has our bitter cold forecast plus the latest on the Montana teenager shot while walking to school. But first, our top story. A Wyoming Highway Patrol trooper is lucky to be alive today. We want to show you this video. Take a look as this trooper barely gets out of the way. There you see. A semi-truck is losing control. Now, this happened near the Rollins area Friday, and the miracle, as many are calling it, is getting a lot of shares on social media. Officials want to remind everyone to move over for emergency vehicles and slow down. Now, back here in Montana, a proposed bill could make Montana's highways safer, especially during the severe winter weather we're seeing. MTN's Sam Hoyle reports.
You've likely heard at least some iteration of it. Yield, slow down, and move over. And House Bill 470, which was heard by the House Transportation Committee on Monday, could bolster a law that makes Montana's highways safer for law enforcement officials and highway workers as they work on the side of the road. House Bill 470 will reinsert language into a version of the bill from past sessions that law enforcement will be able to use to cite drivers operating in a manner that's not safe for those working along the side of the road. For instance, if a highway patrol officer, tow truck driver, or highway worker is stopped on the shoulder of a highway with their lights on, drivers must adhere to posted temporary speed limits. If no temporary speed limit is posted, drivers must slow down to 20 miles below the speed limit and switch lanes if they are able to on the interstate, 30 miles below the posted speed limit on a state highway or county road, or half the posted speed limit on any other road.
I think inadvertently in 2021, the speeds were removed from the move over statute, leaving a very subjective standard for issuing one of these citations. And if someone chooses to challenge one of these citations, courts were throwing out evidence.
Drivers who fail to comply could be cited with reckless endangerment of emergency personnel or highway workers. If convicted, they could be fined between $100 and $500, be imprisoned for up to 90 days, or both. But why is the legislature looking at narrowly tailoring the law? To make it easier to consistently enforce and to keep those working on the side of the highway safe.
Most of our emergency things happen when we're parked. If you recall, 2 years or 4 years ago, 2 towers were killed in the Columbus area. This year already 2 wreckers have been totaled out in a clash on ice up by Drummond. So it's a high-risk area. We need the protection.
In Helena, Sam Hoyle, MTN News.
Congratulations, you made it to the middle of the week. Happy hump day, happy Wednesday, everybody. Our forecast coming up here locally. But first, just want to check in on what's going on across the nation. Getting up to about 30 today in Omaha with a wintry mix, a lot of snow. Maybe several feet of snow near Minneapolis, around the state there. 23 for the high today. Windy City of Chicago, some rain, 36. Salt Lake City going to get some snow, high getting up to about 27 today. Down south, though, going to be warm in Atlanta, Charlotte, Miami, New Orleans, all trying to get into the 70s and 80s. St. Louis getting up to about 68, but we could see some severe thunderstorms in that area. Quickly, your weather headlines for the 48 across the west and northern tier. Significant winter storm will continue to produce heavy snow and impactful freezing rain. The Midwest and Plains, heavy rain with scattered flash flooding and severe storms possible. East to southeast, with a widespread record-breaking warmth is expected. For us, the word of the day is Arctic. How long does it last? I'll let you know coming up.
MTN's Coulter Anstat has the latest now on a 15-year-old boy who was shot while walking to school in Great Falls yesterday morning.
Here in the 1600 block of Valeria Way in Great Falls, the crime scene tape and the police vehicles you can see here behind me were here for much of the morning as police investigated after a 15-year-old was shot while walking to school. The red and blue flashing police lights and yellow crime scene tape were a stark contrast to an otherwise cold and gray Tuesday morning.
It was terrifying.
Estella Reyes lives in the 1600 block of Valeria Way and was home at the time of the shooting.
I was making breakfast for my son and I heard 2 gunshots, and I walked over to the window and looked outside the back door and saw a slender person dressed in black running between the 2 buildings.
Another woman who lives in the block but who didn't want to be identified says her sons also heard the shooting and one of them saw the 15-year-old.
He looked out the south window, and the 15-year-old was leaning against a neighbor's van, and he was holding his stomach. One of the neighbor's kids was running to get something like a towel or something, and he was applying pressure to the kid's stomach.
According to police, the teen was taken to the hospital for treatment.
I felt, oh my God, I was shook. I was shaking. I was scared.
For Reyes, the shooting only adds to her concerns.
I've already been on the fence about putting my kid in public schools, daycares, anything. It just feels safer whenever he's at home.
We will, of course, continue to follow this story and have the latest information for you as it develops, both on air and online. In Great Falls, Colter Anstad, MTN News.
New this noon, Montana Democrat Senator Jon Tester is running for re-election in 2024. He announced it in a press release this morning saying, quote, "As a third-generation farmer who still farms the land my grandparents settled more than 100 years ago, I know that people in Washington don't understand what a hard day's work looks like or the challenges working families are facing in Montana. I'm running for re-election so I can keep fighting for Montanans and demand that Washington stand up for our veterans and lower costs. Montanans need a fighter holding Washington accountable, and I'm running to defend our Montana values." Tester has held his current seat since 2007. At the state capitol, the budgetary debate is underway, and it could impact nursing homes statewide. MTN's Jonathan Ambarian reports.
Over the last week, 6 joint House and Senate subcommittees, each specializing in one section of the state budget, have been holding the first votes, reshaping the budget proposal.
This is the first step in what more than likely is a 5 or 6 step process.
Representative Bob Keenan, a Republican from Big Fork, chairs the subcommittee that handles the biggest section of the budget, $7 billion over 2 years for the Department of Public Health and Human Services. One of the biggest topics of discussion was a proposed increase in the rate the state pays to Medicaid providers for services like behavioral health, senior and long-term care, and care for people with disabilities. Supporters say the current rates are far below the actual costs of providing services. The state conducted a study to determine benchmark rates for continued quality services. Governor Greg Gianforte's administration proposed funding a portion of that increase. Republicans on the subcommittee agreed to direct a larger increase than that, but still less than the full benchmark. Keenan said GOP members understood the need for an increase, but wanted to be cautious.
I'm satisfied right now that here we are on day 32, 33 of the legislature, that we've made a good faith effort to put some grease on a squeaky wheel.
But Democrats on the subcommittee said anything less than the full rate was still leaving providers behind.
And every time Democrats tried to raise provider rates or get money into workers' pockets, the department kept saying, we need data, we need data, we need data. Well, we got data, and we spent a lot of money to get it, and now they're ignoring it.
Representative Mary Cafaro of Helena is sponsoring a bill that would require the state to follow the full benchmark from the study and establish an annual adjustment for inflation. The next step is for all of the sections to be combined into the main budget bill, House Bill 2, and that will be then heard by the House Appropriations Committee. That's likely to happen in the next few weeks. In Helena, Jonathan Ambarian, MTN News.